Hey, Seven. So I just got off the call with Adrien Cote from Velocity, and what I'm going to do here is just do a little intro, little recap of the criteria for the pitches on Friday. And then when you watch the interview, you'll hear these ideas that came from Adrien at Velocity. So what you need to do is when you're doing your pitch, you need to do four things. You've got 5 minutes to do it. First thing you need to do is define your problem. What is the problem your design solves? Medical non-adherence or clicking through privacy agreements. Clearly define that for the audience. They need to understand. Second thing they need to know is why does this problem matter? This is where the empathy part comes in. Show them why this is something they should care about and that the public will care about, and the size of it. Is this a huge problem that's going to make a lot of money to solve, or is it kind of a small thing that's more focused on specific communities or people? That's two. Third thing, how. You don't need to include all the details of how you're going to solve it. In fact, those small mini details you should leave out, but you need to show that you've got a plan for solving this problem. I think to Paris's pill bottle, which we've heard a lot about, the hinge, um, it's a really technical component of it, but it doesn't really, it's not a huge part of the big idea. So leave out the hinge part while including all the bigger details of how you're going to solve the problem, in that case of medical non-adherence. And then four, who benefits? Is this a social problem that's going to impact people in a good way? Or is this a business idea where you're trying to persuade investors to give you money to develop the company, because in the end, it's going to make a lot of money and pay them back. So who's going to benefit? And it doesn't have to be about money. It can be a social good, but just make sure you're clear about that as you tell your story. And you've got 5 minutes to do that. Okay, that's it, 8-7. See you on Wednesday for a synchronous thing with the grade sevens, and then for a regular synchronous meeting at 1. Okay, enjoy the interview. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm here with Adrien Cote. He's the executive director of Velocity, which is an incubator downtown Kitchener. And today Adrien's going to tell us a little bit about his job, give us a couple examples of great pitches he's seen, and then talk about what makes a great pitch and what components you need to include to make your pitch successful. So with that, let's start. Adrien, tell us about your job and what Velocity does.
Hi, everyone. So I'm the executive director of Velocity, and what that means is I'm responsible for everything that Velocity does. And then the way you can think about Velocity and the way it works is that we help people from the earliest days of starting to build a business or thinking about building a business to take that idea, turn it into a product, turn that product into a company, and work with the founders of that company over the, say, 24 months so that they can leave Velocity, enter into the business world, and have a company that's as successful as possible. And what that means is that they have their product completed, that they understand how to do sales, that they understand how to operate their business, and that they've received funding to help grow their business. So this may be investors that wish to put money into the company to help the company grow, or it could be receiving grants from the government. The governments are motivated to fund companies so that more jobs and more companies can be in the local and Canadian ecosystem.
Okay, so what I heard you say there is that there's no such thing as kind of a company size or idea too small for you at Velocity to work with that group to make it happen.
There's no idea that is too small, but what Velocity is really good at is working with companies that over the course of 10 years might have revenues or the amount of money that they make in 1 year around $50 million or more.
So would that be sort of medium to larger size, or what kind of cutoff is that?
Yeah, so these would be, all the companies in Velocity are very small at this time. That's why we're called an incubator. We help the companies start to grow. And so the number of people in the company when they start is maybe 1 to 2 people. By the time they leave Velocity, there may be 10 to 20 people. And then maybe 5-10 years down the road, they're 500 people.
Wow. So you kind of like the curve is sort of starting to really steepen out when they leave Velocity, and the idea is that the momentum's going, that the true growth happens once they leave.
That's right. And the difference is if what Velocity attempts to do and where we work really, really hard with founders of the company is we want that curve once they depart Velocity to be as fast as possible. So for example, perhaps if a company wasn't part of Velocity, that curve would be slower towards the 500 people.
Okay.
So where for some companies, it may take 10, 15 years to be 500 people. If they work with Velocity, they may be 500 people within 5 years.
Okay, and so a big part of being a part of Velocity and attracting the money and then leaving Velocity is founders and their kind of the team making pitches. So if you could, Adrien, what when you think back, we'll get into the details, but when you think of some great pitches you've seen, could you give us some examples and kind of what made them really jump out to you, and either you at Velocity when you're accepting them in, or funders saying, yeah, we want to support this money. What things jump out as great examples of awesome pitches?
Yeah, so there's a few things that I'll highlight. One is, and I think everyone that has listened to pitches, be it on TV or in other places, is that you feel really good about a pitch if you're watching it when you're excited at the end of it. So then the question is, how do you get people who are watching a pitch excited? And there's a couple things. One is that you almost feel like you're part of the idea. You feel like you as the person speaking about the solution that they're pitching, that you're like, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I think we could do this. So you're getting other people excited by helping them. The word is co-create, if you will, the solution as the pitcher is delivering the pitch. The other part is that you have a real sense of empathy, or if you will, you really care about the problem that's being solved, that's being described in the pitch. So, whomever is pitching the solution, you have a good sense of like, yeah, this is important. I believe that this is important. Therefore, I really think that this pitch is good, and I'm gonna do the next thing to help the person pitching. Whether it's maybe I'm an investor, maybe I want to fund the company, or maybe I'm someone from the government and I can provide resources to you, or maybe I'm another business and I say, oh, that's a really good idea. I didn't understand that problem before, but now I do, and so I want to go and work with you.
So I hear you say empathize. This has been and this is a hard thing for us when to try and differentiate between what is a good idea in your own head, kind of in that vacuum. I've got this great idea, but it's missing the bigger connection to like, who else will care? Who does this serve? Whose problem does this solve? Because if you're not sort of empathizing with users, then it doesn't matter how great your idea is. And sometimes that connection is hard to make. So when you're coaching people through pitches, what's the sort of formula, or what kind of format do you tell them to hear, sort of the basic structure when they're developing their pitch?
Yeah, so there's 4 sections really. One is being very clear on the problem you're trying to solve. So if you're looking at a potential business opportunity, you really understand what the problem is that you're going to solve with your business, and you're able to describe it very clearly to someone that maybe isn't as familiar with the problem. So you have to come up with words and sentences that help make it understandable for anyone that's listening. Part of what I was saying before, and this is the second tip, if you will, is making sure that the audience understands why that problem matters. So you're asking the audience to care about your problem, and so the audience will be saying, well, why should I care about this? You need to answer that question. And part of explaining why, or helping people understand, or helping people care about the problem, is that if it's a big problem. So how big is the problem that you're trying to solve? Okay, so then the third step is, how are you going to solve that problem? What's your solution? Being very clear about what your solution is and how it works. And the last one, which is the fourth part of the pitch that's really important, is if you solve this problem, who is going to benefit and how much? And between tying together at the very start, which is clearly identifying what the problem is, and who's going to benefit and how much from solving that problem, you will have a story that you can tell that will make your audience care and understand what you're trying to do.
All right. So the sort of the designers, they need to know what they're actually solving. I have a question about size. Is the size component, when people are pitching, does it matter? Are the listeners trying and the audience trying to understand, like, do they want a bigger problem, or do they rather just want to know that the designers have an understanding of the size of the problem, that it's not so much kind of the magnitude but the understanding, which is more important?
I think it depends on what the problem is you're trying to solve, if you will. So and why you want to solve it. So for example, if you're solving a problem to build a business, well, it's really good if that problem's big, because it means that you could make a good amount of money from it.
Okay.
The problem you want to solve is not necessarily in terms of building a business, but maybe creating a solution that's a benefit to society. Then maybe it's not so much about how big the problem is, it's how important the problem is.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. There you go. So scale matters when it's about revenue, but the size doesn't so much matter if it's kind of more of the social good.
That's right.
Okay. So these pitches, as I mentioned, Adrien, are coming on Friday. Do you want to maybe give a small pitch for people who want to watch some pitches? Velocity has an event coming on Thursday. Do you want to maybe give that a bit of a plug before we sign off?
Absolutely, and I can share the link somehow with you. Is this Thursday we have the Velocity Fund Pitch Competition. What this competition is we have 10 companies. They're going to pitch to receive funding between $50,000 and $100,000. This will be the first investment into these companies. We have a number of different types of companies, everything from software to healthcare to clean technologies. The founders will go and pitch for 3 minutes in front of a set of judges. These judges are experienced business people. They're venture capitalists. Venture capitalists are people who have funds that they can invest into companies. So these are perfect people to decide whether or not the pitch is good or not from a business perspective. I think as well, what many of you will find interesting is that if you're interested in creating social good, a number of the companies that are pitching are actually building businesses that will not only make money, but also create social good through bringing their products to market. So it's this Thursday. You can watch on demand. So if you're not available this Thursday to watch it, that's fine. If you have the link, you can watch it later.
Yeah, I have that link. I can share that link.
Wonderful.
Okay, that's it, Adrien. Thanks for taking the time. I'm gonna stop recording and just have a few words with you before you go, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, of course.